Well, hello, and welcome to another week of Central Reads, our 2024 Bible reading plan. This week is sort of a big week of readings from the Gospel of Matthew. We're reading Matthew 13 through Matthew 18. Matthew 13 is a chapter that's filled with parables, and some of them are short, some of them are very long, some of them have explanations, but really fascinating stuff with these parables there in chapter 13. Chapter 14 gets into some more stories, like the death of John the Baptist. It's so fascinating that these disciples of John the Baptist, they're still with John, they love John. John's killed. You read that story, and then they bury him, and the first thing they do after they bury him is they go and tell Jesus about it. And it's just a little detail, but I think it's something very informative, instructive for any of us who are grieving. The best thing to do when we're grieving is to go to Jesus about it, is to talk to Jesus about it. That's what those disciples of John do. And then in chapter 14 and then 15, there are two different feeding stories where Jesus feeds 5,000 people plus women and children, and then 4,000. And I'm going to actually put out a blog in the Wednesday email that's kind of about that. There's also a really complicated and kind of tricky story from chapter 15, and we'll get into that as well. Chapter 16, he really starts to interact with the Pharisees and Sadducees and the scribes in a way that gets a little bit heightened and that sort of thing. Chapter 17 has this amazing story of the Transfiguration. What is that all about, right? And then chapter 18, which is what we're reading on Saturday, actually, chapter 18 has this super important section on forgiveness and what to do if another member of the church sins against you. We talked about this quite a bit in the forgiveness series that we just did in July. But I not July, that was earlier in the year, whatever it was, in the spring. I just want to remind you to read that chapter 18 again and take it seriously, because nothing threatens the life of a church more than when members fight with each other, don't forgive one another, talk behind their backs, that sort of thing. And so I want to challenge you to read that and to pay special attention to it. There's another Bible Project video coming out this week about the second half of the Gospel of Matthew that starts this week. I want to encourage you to watch that. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. But really, take in this week of reading. Some of the stuff is not easy to understand. Some of it takes some reflection, and some of it is really something that's best talked about with other people. And so maybe this week is a week where you decide to call a friend and see if they want to go out for coffee or whatever and talk about Matthew 16 or something like that. All right, I hope you have a great week of reading, and we'll talk to you again soon.